If you're tired of not making progress and you're ready to be the artist you know you're meant to be, you're in the right place. You're listening to the Singer's Path podcast. The Path, or Performing Artists Training Hub, will cover everything, including singing tips that actually work, advice from top industry professionals, and life-changing mindset shifts. Out with the starving artist and in with the thriving artist. I'm your host, Sarah Bishop, professional singer, actor, educator, and entrepreneur. I'm not afraid to speak the truth and stop the gatekeeping of quality information so you can actually become the artist you dream of being. So let's get on the path, shall we? Even though we're all on our own journeys, it always helps to have a guide. Hello, and welcome back to the Singer's Path podcast. It's me, your host, Sarah Bishop. I'm so excited to talk to you today about one of my favorite things to talk about that probably people get annoyed with me on the internet for or don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go into detail about it here. And that's the absolute, almost biblical importance of vocal balance. And I know I sound insane saying that, but I am such a vocal balance stan. And I know half of you that are listening probably don't even know what that is. So that's why we're going to talk about it. Vocal balance single-handedly changed my dang life. Okay. And there are other words that are synonymous to it, right? Mixing is another way to say it, although that's pretty washed and it also gets used a lot. And I think people get really confused over the term mixing. And I've broken down mixing in other episodes, right? So we're just using it in a different turn with vocal balance specifically being used. And we're going to talk about the sensations, how it really shifted me, how it opened up doors for me. We're going to talk about ways that you can explore finding vocal balance, and even ways that you can work with me to find it and make sure that you're doing it if that's something you're interested in. If you hear that little squeak, that is definitely my cat squeaking, so I Apologize. Squeaks, you gotta knock it. Her nickname is literally Squeaks. That's what we call her. So if you hear her squeaking, now you know why, because it's 4 p.m. on the West Coast and it's time for her cuddles and she's not having it, that she's not currently in my arms. So that's, if you just hear little bitty squeaks. Actually, what's interesting about this episode in particular, before I get into vocal balance, is that I'm also going live on TikTok as I'm doing this. So we'll see if I ever do this again, because I might be kind of distracted. But as I'm getting through the points that I need to get through in the episode specifically, I will see if I can get to the comments on the live. I might not get to that, but if you're sticking around and you're watching live, you can feel free to put them in the chat and I'll see if I can actually get to them by the end. But I'm not sure that my ADD brain can do both at the same time. So this is me trying it out. So let's talk about what the heck is vocal balance again. I kind of mentioned earlier that it's explained in a lot of other ways of mixing, right? And mixing gets thrown around so much. It's kind of like a trigger happy word on the TikTok, on YouTube. Everybody's like, you got to learn how to mix. And I remember even being in my BFA program, it was almost like mixing and belting and soprano. They were all different things. Mixing was its own sound. That's what it seemed like when I was in school. I had people in my class that were either mixy singers, or they were belters, or they were classical sopranos, or classical tenors, or whatever. So my idea of mixing in general got kind of warped. It was and then it became people's identities, oh, she's a mixer, right? And so me, as someone that kind of had just two different voices, right? So it was either I had a full belt, full send, a little bit shouty, too much work, or I had this really nice classical soprano, but I couldn't sing certain notes in my range without it feeling weak and shitty. And when I put it in my quote unquote mix, it felt weak, right? My only idea of what mixing was actually what ended up being a head mix with not a lot of chord closure, and it was too thin. So that's actually that was physically actually what was going on. And I'm going to explain more of what that means here in a second. But that's why I didn't like mixing for a long time, is because my association with mixing was incorrect. And it wasn't actually focused on vocal balance, which is really what masterful mixing is. So when was the first time that I actually experienced actual vocal balance, which is actual true mixing, right? Vocal balance is basically just like evenness and like expert use of your instrument up and down without it being any particular color. When we learned it with teaching training, right? So I'm taught through the Institute of Vocal Advancement, so IVA, very mixing oriented, which actually when I was considering going teacher training there, a previous voice teacher that I was studying with was like, they're very mixing heavy. And this teacher knew like how much I hated talking about mix. Like it like triggered me so much because like I wasn't very good at it. He was like, it's pretty mixing heavy. Like that's what they teach. And I was like, well, whatever. Like my friend recommended doing this. Actually, Emily Kristen Morris, who's another very famous teacher, was my friend. She's actually who recommended that I go get trained there. And I actually started teaching under her for a long time. But anyway, I digress. So I ended up going into this like super mixy training. Okay. And even though I was like, I don't really want to learn this thing. It's like, I don't really identify as a mixer. The teachers would explain it to me as such, right? If you think about like, I think the word's monochromatic. So like, I like to use like a term of like actually a sunset, right? So if you think about like, when you're looking at a sunset, the monochromatic colors of how like, I don't know, like the blues and the pinks kind of like blend together evenly and effortlessly without you seeing a bunch of cracks in the color, right? It's all evened out. It's all smoothed out. It's like perfectly blended, okay? That is basically the analogy that we're using to describe something that is felt, which is super weird, right? Like, so where you like, that's also what makes studying voice weird, is it's like, you're trying to use other ways of explaining something that's felt. Like, what? Right? So anyway, I understood the concept. I was like, okay, so if we're starting in blue, which is chest, and we're moving to red, which is head, and we need to seamlessly make it seem, at least, the very least, like we're giving over slowly to head in that red color with no noticeable difference. That is actually more of what vocal balance is, okay? And what makes vocal balance different from mixed belting or chest dominant mix and head dominant mix, which was the only thing I was kind of capable of doing and I wasn't doing very well at that time, there's different nuances in the ingredients that go into it that make it sound slightly different. They're not as extreme as you would think they are based on how different they sound. But the best way to actually master mixing in other ways, right? Because there's not actually just one way to mix. Like, that's why I talk about mixing so blanket and so wide. Like, you can choose to mix and blend anything you want. That's why vocal balance is different, because it's that balance transition of giving over to blue to red evenly. Say we were going to mix belt. We're going to sing like Legally Blonde or something. And we were going to, you're doing Vivian's cut at the end, and it obviously gets really high, but it sounds mixed belted, right? It sounds chestier. You need to hold on to that chesty blue color a little bit longer. Does that mean that you're physically holding on to chest and you're just like grabbing onto chest voice as long as you can? No. It means that the sound and the perception and the feeling that you have is going to be slightly more chest dominant, right? Versus head, like if you're going to sing like If I Loved You from Carousel or something, that is more like bringing the top color down, bringing the head color down, bringing that head resonance into the sound, right? So head dominant mix and chest dominant mix aren't vocal balance, but vocal balance, chest dominant mix, and head dominant mix are all mixes, right? So it's just about, ultimately, the whole purpose of studying voice is to have choice and to have nuance and to be like, I want to make this sound. Right? So anyway, mixing is such a blanket term to me. So that's why I like to divide it into these more specific languages. Okay. So at this point, like we're going back to the story. Okay. At this point in my teacher mentorship had never experienced vocal balance before, because it was either like, again, like I said, full send belt, way too chesty, holding on, kind of screaming. Very pretty. Oh my God. What was that word? Sorry. Very pretty classical. Very pretty classical singing, right? Which is very head dominant. Or I could sort of bring head down in sort of head mix, but not very well. And so my mentor at IVA, her name is Linda Tompkinson. She's literally changed my life. She's literally, her and all the IVA founders are like actually insane. I have never had a better teacher in my entire life. So you can look her up. Her business is Sing with Linda. She's based out of Salt Lake City, but she does do privates for new people. So if you want to go to my mentor, that's who that is. But you can also go to the IVA website, Institute of Vocal Advancement website, and there's tons of teachers, but like every single one of them is so good in different ways. But anyway, Linda was my point person who I related to the most. And when I tell you the witchcraft that ensued as a singer that had never experienced balance before, had never experienced true connection, true blend, true evenness, true facility, right? The magic that was ensuing was insane. And when I get students to vocal balance now, it's always like emotional. Because we know somewhere inside of us that like this should be easier, right? And we hear it all the time. We hear like, oh, when I mix, it should be easier. Like when I'm singing, it should be this way, or da da da. And we might even be like a high functioning singer, like the way that we're singing. And we've gotten away with it for a long time, right? We have always sounded good, but there's always something in us that's like, I don't feel like I'm doing this like all the way right, or this feels harder than it should be. And then when you reach a certain age, you kind of can get away with things less, but I digress. So when I say it was both magical, I was like, WTF is this? I've never felt this in my entire life. I also had a humongous like ego death. It was like I cried. I remember hanging up. I had just met my husband, okay? This was like 2020. I had just met my husband. He was a new boyfriend, okay? And I remember like crying in his arms, being like, I didn't know I could do this. Like, I've been studying voice for like fucking like 20 years and no one showed me this. Like, what the hell? And I was like mad too. Like, there's many emotions. I was like, this is effed up. Like, why was it only like classical technique or like full send belt and always being worried that I'm going to hurt myself? Like, what's happening? Like, there's something wrong. Like, there's like this woman, these people at IVA like have information that other people aren't using and I don't know why. And like me as the singer, again, in this identity crisis, grief about like, I didn't have this information sooner. Why didn't I have this information sooner? Well, I have it now. Well, now I feel like a newbie again. Like, I feel like I don't know anything. I'm supposed to be training to be a teacher. How am I supposed to be a teacher if I can't even apply this to my own voice and this is feeling brand new and all of these thoughts? It was a lot, right? And plus the frustration of like, you know, besides just being a professional singer and like struggling with getting seen and getting the auditions that I wanted and like that realization of like, wait, is this part of the reason why I was hitting walls for so long, right? Like that my instrument wasn't reliable and like casting could people tell? Then there's like this layer of embarrassment of like, oh my God, was my work to this point like not good enough, right? Now, all of those obviously are stories and mental layers that artists and anyone that's doing something will feel, right? But it's just to talk about how loaded this is and how important and how life-changing it is. Like, I do not take that lightly. Like, and that's why I say balance too, because once I started to drill balance, let me tell you, it took me a couple years to get it like consistent everywhere. Okay. Once I was consistent and I truly kind of understood it better, then I finally started to be like, oh, now that I understand all of these things that go into this more balanced sound, my true sound, now I understand what needs to shift when I want to sing Defying Gravity. Oh my God. Now it finally feels easier, but I had to find center first. Like, I had to find what was my efficient sound first? What was my proper function first? Without trying to make it into anything other than just raw sound, raw, healthy, aligned sound, right? So once you're balanced and you have those tools, you can then experiment and mess with things because you know what the tools are. You know what the colors are that are making the sound, so then you can tweak them. But otherwise, you're just like crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. Like, that doesn't work, right? We all know that. And if you're watching the live stream, if you're listening, like, this is a lot of the frustration that so many singers face is like, like I feel like I'm capable of more, but like I'm running into walls over and over and over again. And like I'm stuck between like I just want to give up and make this be easy again, and like I also want to like commit and understand what's going on. It's like a constant like back and forth between these two things. So once I actually started having a studio, right, I was mastering my own vocal balance. I was able to teach it to other people. I was being mentored, right? And guys, don't get me wrong, like this is why I talk about why teacher training is so important. Because like, can you imagine me just like going blindly into like charging people good money, charging people money without having an understanding of what this is or what the goal was during lessons? Like, that's why I make videos on TikTok and it pisses people off so much where I'm like, listen, I don't care what method you use, how much money you put into it, but you better be doing something. You better be having some kind of mentorship happening where you're training other voices. Because like literally, if I didn't have these mentors, like I would have no idea what I'm doing. Right. And it's not ethical. I don't actually know how to handle these voices and I'm charging money for them. But anyway, so I was ethically learning how to train other voices. I had learned how to apply it to mine. It was working on other voices. And at a certain point, I was like, I was actually still for a while. I think, wait, when was this timeline? This was last spring. So I had already broken away from EKM Studios and I didn't break away from any ill will. It was just a matter of like, hey, I have a feeling I'm supposed to like kind of have my own thing going on. And like, I've gotten so much from this and I wish you well. And we're still friends. And so anyway, that's why I ended up leaving ECAM, because I was like, I have to do this for myself. Like I have more to say. And I have my brand is going to be a little bit different. So part of this breakaway, I'd already released Pitch and Musician, which at that time was called Pitch Please. And Pitch Please is a pitch matching course. So if you're listening or you're watching the live as I'm doing this and you're a new singer and you're a little bit worried about, hey, I'm not sure if I'm singing the right pitches, Pitch and Musician, it's now what it's named because of trademark issues. That is the thing that is actually a better fit for you right now because you need to be confident matching the pitches, okay? But I had made, in this timeline, like I had made that already. And then, so I broke away from EKM and I was like, I got to do this on my own. Had some more students. I was teaching privately like all the time. And I was like, I want to elevate my business. Like I want to be more visible. I want this to help more people. And I was like, you know what? Like, what if I did like a live event on this vocal balance thing? Because I think it is like a downright freaking crime that people don't understand what this is. And the tricky part of understanding vocal balance and to get on vocal balance is that you have to know where you're off balance. You have to be able to identify what are the habits and things that are going on in your sound that are causing it to be messed up, okay? What are you listening for to understand how do you detect that, right? That's what voice teachers do. They listen to you. They have enough experience in ear training and experience working with people and experience in applying tools that they can identify what's going on and then give you the appropriate tool, at least the good ones. No one should just be like washing generally, just like applying general tools to any of this, because that means that they're not specifically listening for what you need. So if you're doing the same damn thing every single week in your voice lessons, by the way, with your teacher, and they're not actually leading you into any specific direction or communicating with you what the goal is and like what this is doing for you, then that's a red flag. Okay, I digress. So anyway, I was like, okay, it's a crime that people don't understand their own voices enough to detect this, like where they're off balance. That's messed up. I had taken lessons for how many years? Why did I have to be a freaking voice teacher to understand how to use my own damn voice? Like, what about all those lessons? Those thousands of dollars. My BFA. It's like $100,000 that I spent and still didn't know what I was doing with my voice. Like, that's messed up. I was like, no. There's no reason why this should be a secret. Okay. So, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to teach it live and I'm going to make it accessible. And so the first time I did it, it was free. I think even the second time I did it, it was free. And now there is a price for it, but I might use it as a freebie again, make the recording of this class available, but I'm kind of on the fence about that. So, but it's very low. It's a low price. It's a 2.5-hour class. It's really called the Discover Mini course now, because I took the 2 times that I did the live class and I spliced it up to be a little bit more digestible. But it's so much information and there's listening examples and there's all kinds of stuff. It's honestly so great. It's so baller, and it's so much information. It's so helpful. So I did that, and it was called Discover. And when I started speaking to these issues, right, being like, hey, you shouldn't always be at the mercy of someone else of understanding your own instrument. Like, that's messed up. I'd have students come in and be like, I have a master's degree in opera, and I've always wanted to sing pop. Like, I'm dead ass right now, and this is a shame, and I'm not saying this is okay at all. But she was like, I never really understood how to sing contemporary music or sing a normal song other than an aria. Like, and you would think that like the hundreds of thousands of dollars that I spent learning to sing would have been applied over here, but it's not. Okay. So, and again, the other thing Discover teaches you, right, is to identify where your imbalances are. And then it teaches you how to pick tools individually and then how to give them to yourself. Okay. Because and to get a balanced sound is really what it's focusing on. Because again, if we're thinking about arias and opera, that's a head dominant sound. That means that singer had been singing in head voice primarily for years, right? So of course they hadn't understood vocal balance, right? But everyone should know this, right? I think it's a freaking right of a singer to, beyond breathing and posture, what do we need to do to understand our instrument, okay? So that's why the Discover mini course is such a coveted thing. And it's actually why it's the lowest price thing that I offer at this time, because there's no reason why that should be gatekept at all. Again, I'll link that in the show notes. I'm trying to remember that I said that. But I'll link that in the show notes as something that you can get. But there's a next stage to this. And once I made the Discover class, I was like, okay, so I gave them a lot of the information and the tools that we know as teachers. But there's one more level. Like, it's hard to apply all that right away when you haven't had hours and hours of mentorship to train your ear exactly, right? So that's why creating a listening library of more vocal examples is important, so that you can actually match up what your voice is doing and put your properly diagnose, in quotations, your vocal habits by listening to other examples. So I was like, what if Discover helped put people into categories where they could at least know where to start. And then I made lessons based off of those very common vocal habits that people have. And I made lessons from that address exactly the things that those people are going for in those different groups. Okay. So then Discover became about hey, we're going to target where the hole is, what the habit is. Okay. Where is the place you need to look, and what do you do about it? Okay. So Discover started to teach people that. And then it was okay, I know what to do about it. And I have a sheet that has exercises, but that's a lot. So then I was like, okay, so now that they know where to go, I'm going to make lessons for them that they can actually actively drill and see huge results, even from something that is a pre-recorded online course, because they're actually getting what they need vocally, individually. They already understand their needs, and now they have lessons that are then giving them their needs. So then that's why the Pillars series exists. Okay. Because basically Discover teaches you, hey, do you need to target chest voice? Do you need to target head voice? Or are you ready to blend the two together, right? Do you have the two colors? Or are you ready to kind of do that middle work, the harder work? Okay. And, the Discover class will point you in the direction of that. And then Pillars is the thing that then gives you those lessons. It's okay, you know what you need. Now let's give it to you. Okay. And it has lessons for every single type of vocal habit. So in chest, right, there's lessons for people that, sing really airy. They haven't experienced a full chest voice before. There's people that just need to get maybe a little bit more confident down there. Maybe they studied classically for a really long time. In the head voice lesson, there's a lot for people that they're a little bit intimidated to go up high. They don't know how to really access that. Maybe it's just a little bit weighty. It feels uncomfortable. Maybe they've never been in head voice at all, right? So those are all lessons that exist in both the chest and then head. And then mix is okay, so you're able to get up and down, but what is causing it not to be completely balanced, right? There's a gradual flip that means that you're letting go of chest too early. You're thinning out too early. There's a weighty kind of tendency, which means that you're pulling up, you're getting through it, but your intonation is suffering. You're going flat. You're kind of pulling. It's getting uncomfortable as you're getting higher, right? So basically, the Pillars series then is really, if you get the full thing, which I always recommend everybody does, if you get the full thing, it already includes the Discover Masterclass, first of all. Okay. So you get all of that like hours of information about how to understand what your voice needs and how to reassess what your voice needs as you get better and better. Okay. And then you basically get 3 courses within Pillars, right? So you get the Discover mini course, you get chest, lessons for any kind of thing related to chest that you need. You get head, lessons related to anything you need in head. And then finally, you have mix, and you can even out and finally actually achieve vocal balance. Okay. So that is like my baby. That is at the core, one of the prides and joys of things that I've created, because I just know there's a fucking need. Like, there's a need for singers to understand what the hell is going on with themselves and actually help themselves and not always have their hand held by a teacher. Okay. And this is also not to say that Pillars, right, even though it does encourage vocal balance, right, and it does help you get that way, and it helps you understand where you're off and get you back on. It's not to say that it replaces having a teacher. No one can replace having a live professional with you there and helping you in that moment. But what it can do, because realistically, what it can do is help hold your hand when you're not with your teacher, right? When you're on a gig, like when you're touring, when you're like unavailable, you're busy, right? You can still keep up your work. You can still progress. And the other cool thing about it, because it encompasses all these vocal habits, right? This is something people don't really talk about. Say you like got Pillars and you realized you're like a weighty singer, okay? And you did that lesson over and over and over again. You're seeing improvement, you're seeing improvement, you're seeing improvement. All of a sudden you're more balanced. You're like, oh my God, like I feel more balanced. This feels amazing. So you just keep doing and doing and doing those exercises. At some point, it's going to start to over strengthen that. And then you're going to over time kind of end up with kind of maybe an opposite problem. That's why it's called vocal balance. It's got to be, right? You can accidentally get off balance by doing something for too long and not reassessing and reevaluating what you need in that moment. So that's another reason Pillars is amazing, because you got all of the lessons for all of the tendencies. So then you just reassess. If you're like, this feels weird, okay? You just reassess it and you go, okay, it seems like I'm doing more of this thing now. I will go do that lesson, okay? So that's why that exists, all right? And I know it's an investment for some people. If you're listening, you're like, oh, that sounds great, and I wish I could get it. Just know that it's something that you own forever and you use forever and ever and ever and ever, okay? So that's why it's at the price that it is. It's because you get to keep it. You get to keep it and it's yours, baby. It's like 10 lessons that you can use and recycle and move around and reposition and use over and over again. Okay. That's why it is what it is. And it's actually very underpriced. And my business coach gets really mad at me. And I don't care because it needs to be accessible, right? There's also payment plans for it too, if it's like a very large sum. And I know some people have different currency. Like, I get it. Like, if Afterpay and Klarna don't work for you, you can always reach out to me. Sometimes I offer scholarships. We do try to make ways for it to be accessible again. Like, we'll do giveaways, we'll do scholarships. That's why it's really important that you're part of the Singer's Secret Digest. So that's my email list. It's really important that you're part of that and that those aren't going to junk, because that's where I'm going to notify, hey, I'm doing a live event. Hey, you should probably sign up. Hey, like, we're probably going to do a giveaway. Hey, like, that was actually something that happened at Belt Like a Baddie that I didn't really talk about publicly, because I'm like, okay, it was for the people that signed up and took themselves seriously. But with Belt Like a Baddie, it was like we did 3 drawings of advanced mix, which is a different course that does more advanced stuff. Like, once you understand vocal balance, it teaches like mixed belt and specifically head dominant mix. But the free event was Belt Like a Baddie. And so we did live drawings and we gave away those things for free. And then I actually did another scholarship application that was need-based. And it was also, because it was in June, so it was Juneteenth, it was Pride, so it was encouraging people of color, LGBTQ, to feel recognized and apply. And then we actually also gave out a bunch of scholarships that way too. So just so you know, like, I know it's an investment and I hear you. And I want to encourage you to invest in yourself and put money into something that matters to you and is important. And just know that we try our best. I mean, I am a business. I do have to make money, right? But we try our best to make sure that there are opportunities, that they're, that it's not inaccessible for people. Okay. Anyway, on and on we go. The other thing that I will say about pillars is, say you have it or you're interested in getting it, and there's an element of it that you're like, oh man, like, this is great. Like, this is so much information. I'm getting information to basically learn how to spot myself. Like, my voice teacher spots me and I have the tools. And I'm even listening. I'm picking lessons. I think it's this lesson, right? I'm still getting comfortable, like, actually truly assessing myself and knowing, like, what I need. God, it would be really great to, like, get help, like, it would be really great if Sarah, right, was actually teaching me this, right? If I could actually get real live advice, because, like, I feel like it's working, but, like, maybe it's not clicking all the way, right? Like, some people, they need that a little extra guidance, and that's why group lessons exist. Okay, so group lessons are really semi-private lessons. They're capped at 10 people, and it works hand in hand with pillars. So if you're a new student and you're listening to this right now, and you're listening to pillars and you're like, oh, that sounds good, but, like, I kind of want to work with Sarah, and you go and you'll see that actually pillars is a prereq to work with me. And the reason that is because I need you to already kind of have the language and be doing the work, so that group lessons are the most efficient use of your time possible, right? That you're already ethically, like, putting in that training and that work on your own. And then you can come in and be like, hey, I'm not sure XYZ question. Like, ooh, I feel like this is happening on this exercise. Like, all of these are working, but this one isn't. Okay. And then I'll be like, cool, like, let me hear you. Right. And then that's the place you get personalized feedback, like, just like we're in private lessons, right? I'm listening to you, I'm adjusting, I'm assigning things. And then we also have time, because you have the resource of pillars outside of class. Then we also have time in class to get to the stuff that everybody actually wants to get to, which is really song application. Okay. How do these nay exercises, or the blah, blah, blahs, or all these stupid, like, how do all these weird sounds actually apply to song work? How do I actually get this? How do I get myself to sound like this in song? And then how do I, get myself to book? Like, how do I get comfortable in front of an audition? How do I apply this? Right. So that's really the next elevation to any of the courses that I make, but especially for pillars. It's like, hey, I know this is important. This is all good information, but it can be a lot and you need help, right? So group lessons, right, requires pillars as a prereq, but then you actually get to take advantage and get so clear on your questions. And then I get to be there to make sure that you're experiencing vocal balance. I get to get you there. And you know for certain that you're living there, and you know that you can go back and practice it and drill it and drill it and drill it. And that's when people see insane results. Like, people love these group classes, guys. Like, I love these group lessons. Like, I think at first I was like, and I know what you're thinking too, because I would have been like this too. It's like, especially for pro singers, it's like, well, I don't want to do that. Why would I want to do a group lesson? Like, I want private lessons. I'm a pro. Like, I can hear you. Okay. Like, I know, because I was like that. Okay. The difference too between, like, group lessons are different, but, like, you're still going to grow in your technique. It's almost kind of even better, actually, because then it doesn't feel isolating anymore. Like, you still get personalized attention. You still get to apply to song work. It's at a fraction of the price of it would be to work with me. Okay. But then you have camaraderie. You have community. And I mean, I don't attract, like, basic ass people. Like, it's the zero tolerance policy as far as, like, if someone's going to be shady in group, like, no one's judging each other. That's another draw that people have, is like, oh, or it's a fear. I'm really afraid of singing in front of people. Like, that's terrifying. I don't want to do that. Like, this is private. Like, I don't feel ready. well, group lessons make you ready. And it actually gives you such a beautiful community. So if you're super afraid of singing in front of others, like just know that even though it's going to feel vulnerable, like we give you tools to help you regulate yourself in that space. And once you start to trust that it's a safe environment, you actually get to see other people who are somewhere on their path, their singer's path, somewhere on their path that may either be similar to yours, like you guys might be in the same place, and you notice how that person actually shifts out of that. And then you're like, oh my God, I can do that too. Hey, I can apply that too. Or maybe they're a little ahead of you and you're like, oh, I know I can get there too, right? Oh, or there's someone that's like a couple steps behind in wherever they are on their path, but they have a habit that you used to have that you've grown out of. So then you can be like, oh my God, that person, I know what's ahead for that person. I know what their next step of development is. I'm so excited for them. So that's where like the camaraderie comes in. Group lessons have been incredibly popular with a lot of the students that I've taught for a long time. And that's actually why the evening class at this time is completely sold out. So like there's no spots on that one. Sorry. But there are just a couple slots left in the pro class. And the pro class takes place on Tuesday afternoons. I think it starts September 23rd, right? I know I'm selling this kind of early. It's because I'm going to be out of town and it's been filling up. So it's just like, hey, like it's open. Like, are you paying attention? Well, get your slot. So it's going to start opening September 23rd. And then it's going to go for 9 weeks, okay? And the pro class starts on Tuesdays. It's 11:30 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. So it's like not too bad for my Europeans. It's a little early for my West Coasters, but we've had people do it. It's not like a terrible, terrible time. You just have to wake up kind of early. So yeah, so that's the pro class is the only class right now that has slots open. I just had someone on the live ask, do you have a program specific for voice teachers? Yeah, I mean, literally, yes, if you're a teacher, you could definitely do the pro class. Okay, the person, Taco Tuesday, they're like, I'm a teacher. I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, get in that pro class, baby girl. Get in the pro class. And yes, so Pillars and Discover are both a lot of information that we talk about and you learn in IVA. So I actually have a lot of students that have started out with that and they have their own little studios, right? Or they use it and it helps them. So like that's a good place to start to help educate yourself. And then obviously if you want to invest further, get more mentorship, all that kind of stuff, I will always recommend people go into IVA. But budget-wise, time-wise, like schedule-wise, if you're like, hey, I just want like good help. I want to understand how to help my voice and I want to understand how to listen for things in other voices, then yeah, like Discover, Pillars, group lessons. Oh, hell yeah, baby. And you're actually, I'm sorry, and this podcast, I'm talking to the person live, but the people that, there are other teachers that are in class and there's people on Broadway and stuff. So there's lots of professionals that are in the pro class. Okay. So that being said, I kind of mentioned this on the live. I paused the podcast, guys. Sorry for my like scattered brain here a little bit, but I mentioned before, like, say you're like, dang it, I can't do that time. I can only do the evening time. Well, in that case, you're going to have to sign up for the wait list and be notified when it's open again for the winter. And I will say, kind of on a personal front, I'm making some family changes here soon-ish. So I'm not really sure how long or how frequently this group lesson thing will be available. Okay. Like, I with time, things changing. So I would never like, just think like, I'll be able to do it next time, right? But if you really can't, then just join the waitlist and then you'll be notified and make sure the emails aren't going to junk. Guys, the amount of times I've had people be like, I missed it. It's like, you gotta mark it as not junk, baby. I don't know what to tell you. This isn't some average basic shit. Like, we're doing giveaways, we're doing sales, we're doing free events. You're joined a waitlist to get in something. You need to make sure that you're being notified, okay? So anyway, all that being said, literally the intermediate class like filled up before I announced it like once to my email list and it was full. So the evening class. So, and the afternoon class, the only reason there's spots available right now is because a couple people booked some stuff and then a couple people are going back to school because they're in like BFA programs. They're like in their college years. Right. So that's literally why there's spots available in the pro class is because people are working or they're going back to school. So I would take advantage of that if that's you, if you are a pro singer, if you're not a pro singer and you can do the afternoon class, right? And The only issue that I have with that is just know that like the approach of the pro class is a little intense, right? Like it's more focused on auditioning and working, touring. The singers are very good. A lot, so it's like, okay, like if you're fine with being there and focusing on that, and that's really the only thing that works in your schedule, and you're just like dying to work on this and you want to learn from me, since this is the only way to learn from me, then you can join, or you can reach out to me and see if it's going to be an issue if you join or whatever. Okay. Or if this is the only time zone that works, all of that, just communicate with me. You can always reach out to me, sarahbishopvocalstudio@gmail.com. I'm happy to answer any of your questions about what is the right offer for you, what is the right level for you, or like, hey, this is the only time. I think we had one or two people that were more like intermediate singers. And they actually were so inspired by the pro singers. The pro singers lifted them up a whole lot. But the level discrepancy is really just because we can't really cross mix levels and like keep it at the same rate. Like everybody kind of sort of needs to be aware of the rate that we're going to be moving through class in a way. So anyway, yeah, so that's me talking about how important vocal balance is, how it changed my life, and why it relates to group lessons so much, and kind of how that all came about and how that's all related. And it's just a way of doing things a little bit differently. As your business expands, you want to keep helping people as much as you can. But then it's like, okay, like there's only so much hours in a day, and people are at different price budgets and all that stuff. And it's like trying to create more things for people that will be just as beneficial. And so that's kind of why all of these things came to be in the way that they did. And again, just like anything, I only made these things because I care. I know how hard it is. I know how much it sucks to not feel like you have a lot of help, or that, a teacher is actually speaking to you or speak to your language. Jesus, there's this one story that I've talked about before on socials where I actually did make it to final callbacks for a lead on Broadway. For Katie and Mean Girls. And I talked about this last time, and people were like, you're using this as a promo. I was like, no, bitch, this is a real fucking thing that happened to me. I wish it wasn't. Okay. I made it to final callbacks for Katie and Mean Girls. And again, had a very high functioning voice, but like the music team like could tell that I would have a pretty hard time singing that score every single day because my vocal balance wasn't worked on very well. Right? My mixing wasn't very good, and they could probably tell I wasn't as confident in it, but I was perfect for that part, right? So I made it to final callbacks with Tina Fey and all of that. And they had a vocal session with me, right? Which means a work session. So they brought me in early and had me work with the music director and see if this poor music director could get me to do what she needed me to do. And unfortunately, I was not able to do exactly what they needed me to do, but I did my best, right? And even though we know a bajillion reasons why we really never know why we never got something. Who actually ended up getting it was Sabrina Carpenter. So didn't really stand a chance there. But it bothered me that I knew, like part of me knew that like my voice wasn't up to par. Like that was the thing that I knew wasn't really as competitive, right? So anyway, if I had group lessons at that time, oh my God, like that would have helped me so much because I would have been actively practicing. Like I could have actively brought in the material more than like, oh, just this one-off lesson, right? Because like one-off lessons in New York especially are expensive. Like with a good teacher, they're like $200+ an hour, okay? Like I couldn't even afford that at that time, right? But to get 9 lessons, right? Now, I mean, obviously group classes are more than $200, but if you break it down into like how many times you get to meet and practice, and then you're applying pillars. Like, are you joking? Like the value, even though it's a larger sum than doing a one-off lesson, like you're going to be able to use that over and over and over and over again and really excel and really push yourself forward. And I needed those tools, just hands down. I needed those tools. I only created them because I needed them. I don't know if it's some like weird way of healing myself, like finally giving myself what I needed back then and then sharing it with others. But like, I know this is one long talk about, vocal balance and pillars and discover and group lessons. I talked about like 10 different things. But it's really to kind of tell you my mindset as to how and why I did this, why vocal balance is so important, and how you can achieve it in a way that's not going to cost you literally like, Jesus, how much did this cost me to learn? Oh my God, fucking like $20,000 or something, like for the information that's in there and the way like it's broken down. Like, guys, it is pretty invaluable. So that's why we're talking about it, and how you can have this happen for yourself and not break your bank to crazy amounts, like tens of thousands of dollars to learn this. I will also say that if you are listening to this at the time that it's being released, which I think should be released in August, just know that at the time that I'm recording this, there are a couple spots left in that pro class. You do have to have Pillars as a prereq. Okay, you can get the new student bundle, but just know that I don't know by the time this is released if those are even still there. So go to the link in the show notes, check it out. If it's not available, it'll say. And then my other best guess is to join the group lesson waitlist so that you're notified when it's available next. So I can work with you and actually, hear your voice and help you. With all of that, I'm going to wrap up here. If you like this show, obviously would love to hear from you. I love when I get emails about this show. It's actually so cool. You can always leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. And if you do that, actually, you take a screenshot. We did finally have you guys start sending us emails with your screenshots, which is very exciting. But if you leave a review on the Singer's Path podcast, take a screenshot, email it to me, singerspath@gmail.com. We will enter you to win a free lesson with me. So then you can even get a free half-hour lesson. So another way to give back, right? So you give a review and then you're entered to win a free lesson. So with all of that, I'm so excited to connect with you. I hope you now understand, if you didn't before, because I talk about it all the time, but how much of a freaking nerd I am for vocal balance, why it's so important, how studying it will help you understand your own vocal needs, how to give it to yourself, right? We talked about where and how you can do that through Discover and Pillars. And then if you need additional help or you really want to work with me, then up level to group lessons. And again, group lesson signups will end September 1st. So if you're listening to it and it's not available anymore, that's why, because the signups ends in September 1st because we start in September. So with all of that, I hope this was helpful, at least maybe being heard in the experience that it is to be a singer and not understand balance or just feel fuzzy about mixing or all of that. And I will talk to you next time. Yay, yay, yay. See you soon. Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. This helps me get this information out to more artists all over the world. Let's work together to spread the joys of music. Until next time, I'm your host, Sarah Bishop, signing off from the Singer's Path podcast. Thanks for listening.